George W. Bush is always the first name that comes to mind whenever somebody mentions the office of the President of the United States. He was the president from most of my youth, most of my childhood. Barack Obama, I don't know. It was my young adulthood. I was busy, I don't know, doing other stuff. No offense. Trump, it just, every once in a while, it would hit me. And it's like, that guy's president? Fucking weird. A little too young for Clinton. I was born during HW. It didn't really resonate with me or anything like that, but his name is synonymous, at least for me. I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't know who you guys associate that position with most. But I also remember all of the calls of George W. Bush being a Nazi. I remember him always being referred to as the C+ president, the guy who just skated through on his name only. He was just the legacy vote, and he got all of the hate that Trump got. I remember all of this stuff. You guys probably do too. And now he's become some sort of a darling, I guess, from never Trumpers, from Democrats who just always point across the aisle like it's supposed to be some kind of point of pride that, oh, look at the Bushes are even saying that the GOP's heading in the bad direction. It's fucking retarded. It's the exact same way that this is something else. This is why I don't ever really report on anything that this guy says. Whenever conservatives or centrists out there say, oh, look at what Bill Maher's saying, I don't care. I look at Bill Maher like the guy that the right or the center brings up because he says that he's this liberal and he says all of these ridiculous things. But now he's starting to realize that, oh, wow, actually things that I've been saying have real life consequences and I've kind of created this disaster zone. I think the only people who pay attention to Bill Maher are people on the right and people in his own audience. That's about it. I don't think he has any cultural significance. That's why I don't report on him. And I see that exact same approach whenever somebody brings up the words of George W. Bush or points to him as some sort of authority figure. For years, he was constantly referred to as a Nazi, as a dumbass. But now, all of a sudden, because Orange Man's there, or he was the cause of all the problems and Barack Obama was this golden god on the hill and you couldn't criticize him for everything. It was always Bush's fault. But he said mean things about the Orange Man, so that's all right. That gives him the leeway. And then he makes ridiculous statements like this. And why is this important? Why is it necessary to bring up this old Muppet? It's because there's really no difference between establishment Democrats and establishment GOP. It's one big party. All of their actions are orchestrated by the deep state. I hate to use those kind of buzz terms, but it's fair when you're referencing the DOJ, the DOD, the FBI, the CIA, all of those shadowy, nefarious figures in the background. They're the ones who are pulling the strings, and it would probably make for a really interesting video to do a deep dive on the history of the Bush family. If you guys would be interested in that, just let me know, because oh my god, their influence goes back a long time. And if it wasn't for H.W. Bush, Reagan might have been a lot more successful and a lot more long lasting with his policies. But that's another story for another day, like I said. So what's the old Muppet up to now? Well, George W. Bush says the U.S. needs to take more foreign workers to take jobs as 16.6 million Americans are currently unemployed. He is very much for illegal immigration. And he was, I think this is correct, he was the most popular Republican candidate until Trump in the 2020 election in the Hispanic demographics, mostly because he was fairly lax on border enforcement, which didn't make him terribly popular with a vast majority of people, but it was all right with some border towns. But for him to do this in the midst of a complete and utter border collapse, it's a hot take. It's a big ask. Former President George W. Bush says the United States needs more foreign workers to take American jobs. Neocons at work. Even as nearly 17 million Americans are unemployed. During an interview with the Today Morning Show, just shows that the two-party dichotomy isn't left and right. It's establishment and it's populist. Bush said President Joe Biden's administration ought to increase legal immigration, the levels to fill American jobs with more foreign workers because they'll do it for cheap. As the U.S.-Mexico border is overwhelmed with skyrocketing illegal immigration, we need to change with work visas, Bush said. There's a lot of jobs that are empty and there's a lot of jobs that need to be filled. For pennies on the dollar. And yet there are people willing to work hard to do so. Yes, they used to be called teenagers, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, kids in college, kids in university. You could fill those jobs with the kids who need the life experience. But no, you just rather import illegal immigrants. Fucking stupid. This is why I can't stand neocons. Alrighty, the U.S. annually admits about 1.2 million illegal immigrants on green cards to permanently resettle in the country. In addition, another 1.4 million foreign workers are admitted every year on visas to take American jobs. Despite Bush's claim, research has continuously debunked businesses talking points that suggest the U.S. has a shortage of workers and that there are jobs Americans refuse to do. Just like at the end of the Biden administration, there I am getting ahead of myself, the Obama administration, when he said that unemployment rates would never get any lower than they would right now. There are just some people who aren't coming back into the workforce until 2019, when unemployment rates were at the lowest that they've ever been. But hey, don't need to remember that little detail. A study from 2018, for instance, by the Center for Immigration Studies, reviewed 474 occupations in the United States workforce and found that none are totally dominated by illegal or illegal immigrants. In only 6 of those 474 occupations are illegal and illegal immigrants, the majority workers, just 1% of the total workforce. But don't tell any of the neo-politicians that. But that wasn't the only dumb statement that Bush made about immigrants. Of course not. He can't just keep himself to just a one topic. No, he's pushing for amnesty again, even though it was highly unpopular, even when he was president. But now that he's out of office and that his counterpart is once again in the seat, yeah, fuck it. Might as well go for it. Why not? Former President George W. Bush told radio host Hugh Hewitt, on April 22nd, that he had been working with the Koch network. Oh my god. This is the one point we'll actually agree with Bernie Sanders. He used to be for closed borders. He used to think that borders were a real thing. He said that the illegal immigrants or illegal immigration is a Koch brothers proposal, okay? They just want to staff their companies with cheap immigrants that will just do the work that Americans could be doing. That's a relic from a bygone era, kind of like Bernie Sanders. To help President Joe Biden pass an amnesty and cheap labor bill through Congress, we got a coalition of like-minded people working the issue. I think you could probably just apply that to literally everything. And just not a more transparent statement has been said. Bush told Never Trumper Hewitt Thursday. Bush, whose poll rating dipped to 33% in 2008, just as he was getting shuffled out the door. But probably before he matrix dodged those sandals getting thrown at him when he was in Iraq. Is that what it was? I remember that. Those were actually some smooth moves there. Because that dude was not but 15 feet away from him. And he dodged both of those and had a smile on his face. That was about the high point of his presidency. Then throwing an absolute laser in the 2001 World Series. The first pitch in Yankee Stadium. In 2006 and 7. Pushing amnesties then. Many of them are involved on Capitol Hill, so the Bush Center is spearheading a reform movement. It's quiet except for this book of paintings, which makes it not quiet. We're talking about people, you know? What needs to be done? I mean, the Koch brothers, for example. I know that the word Koch, that scares a lot of people on the left. You gotta make a little addendum to that one, pal. But they're very much in favor of rational immigration policies. No, irrational. That's the word you were looking for. And they're putting money behind it, and they're pushing hard. Now, there have been an inter-party outreach yet. Oh, there hasn't been an inter-party outreach yet. But maybe it's not quite ripe. My view is, if the president is sincere about this, we don't know what he is actually sincere about, other than soft serve ice cream. He ought to sit down with, some rational Republicans, i.e. rhinos like Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, the crew. But he's got to finish his initial agenda. However, he's got a lot on his plate right now, but eventually I think there's a deal to be done. I hope there isn't, because we've seen the numbers, we know the numbers, and the policy itself is stupid. The Koch network includes a wide variety of Republican donors who would profit from any inflow of new workers, consumers, apartment renters, and home buyers. Many business groups are already working with Mark Zuckerberg's FWD.US group of investors to organize Democrats behind a bill that would import more labor, consumers, and renters. You see, eventually you have the left and the right on the different ends of the political spectrum. And then there's this thing called the horseshoe theory, where eventually the radicals will meet in the middle once their policies get so outlandish. Just as an example, there's the white supremacists out there on the far right, and then you have Antifa and Black Lives Matter on the far left. At the end of the day, they both want segregation. One just wants a white-only space, and the other ones just want a black and colored people-only space. See? There's no difference. It's just a little bit of rhetoric. However, Bush ignores the economic impact of more immigration. Probably because he doesn't know it or understand it. He doesn't have Cheney around to decipher it for him. And he instead suggests that Americans will be irrationally afraid of amnesty. What'll happen is people will scream amnesty, and once you lob the word amnesty out there, it scares people. Bush did not name any of the rational Republicans who might join his immigration push. However, a group of senators met this week with with Democrats' top amnesty advocate Dick Durbin from Illinois, where, no illegal immigrants would end up being placed. It would just be border towns, very, very far away from him. The GOP members were John Cornyn from Texas, Susan Collins, Lindsey Graham. What day of the week is it? Who knows what his opinions truly are? Lisa Murkowski and Mike Rounds. Not exactly a strong caucus. Bush said he also wants the legislation to bring in even more foreign workers. They would likely include foreign college graduates who would accept low wages and the promise of green cards in exchange for working white-collar jobs. American graduates need, Bush said. Oh my God, it's almost like he's advocating for a caste system. Bush did not comment on the damaging impact of immigration on American wages, nor how immigration, both legal and illegal, is driving up housing prices, discouraging high-tech investment, and moving wealth from inferior states to the coastal states. Interior states, sorry. My mistake. Nor did he talk about Americans' right to own their own national labor market and their right to fight with employers for higher wages, better conditions, and more labor-saving investments. Instead, Bush emphasizes the business executives would get compliant, grateful workers to work jobs in their estates. Would you like to mow my lawn? He thinks everybody's going to be fucking Ted Knight. Oh my God. This just continues to go on and on about how neoconism is the way of the future. Neolibism. Exact same shit, right? But what else did we find out in this interview? Well, it just goes to show you how strong of a proponent George W. Bush is for the GOP party. Because he made a nativist comment. And he also said that he wrote in Condoleezza Rice for president because she was definitely running. Wonder what job she would have her take up now. Former President George W. Bush walked back his comments this week describing today's Republican Party as isolationist and nativist. One could only hope. It revealed that he wrote in Condoleezza for president last November. Hee hee, how cheeky. Bush, who was promoting a new book featuring his paintings of immigrants. I can think of another former leader of a certain country who used to peddle paintings, but I'll let your mind wander on that one. Was asked what he thought about his party in an interview with NBC's Today Show earlier this week and answered, I would describe it as isolationist, protectionist, and, in a certain extent, nativist. The former president clarified his comments, saying, really, I should have said, there's loud voices who are isolationists, protectionists, and nativists, something, by the way, I talked about when I was president. Yeah, and you should let them speak, and you should let them run the party. Because it's not anybody else's concern what the fuck is going on with the world, okay? If you want America to be the world police like so many people in your party or your extended party want them to be, there are 3 different ways that you can go about it. You can go about the Bush family way, the Clinton family way. They're exactly the same political affiliation, so... Or you just go around creating little outposts throughout the world, and that's what we have right now, hence the destabilization in the Middle East, and nothing will ever really get solved. And then you had the Trump approach to everything. Just pull back slightly. And if anybody decides that they want to try to saber rattle with you, you just greet them with the force and the fire and the fury that will not encourage further repercussions, that will not encourage further response from them. See Soleimani, see el-Baghdadi getting wiped off the face of the earth, and then you had North Korea banging the drum, doing all of their tests out in the ocean. A couple of tweets later, and then guess what? There's meetings, and then there's progress being happening. And then you have the true isolationists, the true nativists, the guys who just want to sit back, isolate off the world, and then just create a power vacuum where China would end up stepping up, right? That's where you have the true libertarian party. I think that that's their current statement. I don't know what the fuck they're on about. This is the same party that's saying it's not enough to be against racism. You have to be anti-racist. The same party that pushes you're allowed to do whatever you want under the United States Constitution. It's a fucking weird place. But that's ultimately what they want. So yeah, even though he doesn't have any institutional power anymore, the Bush family still has the ear of those in charge. They still have significant influence in the rhino establishment part of the GOP. The Mitch McConnell, the Liz Cheney, Dan Crenshaws of the world. They still take their cues from George W. Bush and his cabal of cadre of idiots. But speaking of idiots, Biden has a new climate plan, and it is fucking bonkers in its execution. And the media, big tech, the censorship brigade is trying to tell a little bit different of a story of what the intended purpose of this is supposed to be. So let's take a look at that, shall we? Thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.